The earliest trumpets date back to 1500 BC and earlier. The bronze and silver Tutankhamun's trumpets from his grave in Egypt, bronze lyres from Scandinavia, and metal trumpets from China date back to this period. Trumpets from the Oxus civilization, 3rd millennium BC, of Central Asia have decorated swellings in the middle, yet are made out of one sheet of metal, which is considered a technical wonder for its time. The shofar, made from a ram horn, and the Hatzotzroth, made of metal, are both mentioned in the Bible. They were said to have been played in Solomon's temple around 3,000 years ago. They were said to be used to blow down the walls of Jericho. They are still used on certain religious days. The salpinx was a straight trumpet 62 inches long, made of bone or bronze. Salpinx contests were a part of the original Olympic Games. The Mochi people of ancient Peru depicted trumpets in their art going back to AD 300. The earliest trumpets were signaling instruments used for military or religious purposes, rather than music in the modern sense, and the modern bugle continues this signaling tradition. Improvements to instrument design and metal making in the late Middle Ages and Renaissance led to an increased usefulness of the trumpet as a musical instrument. The natural trumpets of this era consisted of a single coiled tube without valves and therefore could only produce the notes of a single overtone series. Changing keys required the player to change crooks of the instrument. The development of the upper clarino register by specialist trumpeters, notably Cesare Bendinelli, would lend itself well to the Baroque era, also known as the Golden Age of the natural trumpet. During this period, a vast body of music was written for virtuoso trumpeters. The art was revived in the mid-20th century and natural trumpet playing is again a thriving art around the world. Many modern players in Germany and the UK who perform Baroque music use a version of the natural trumpet fitted with 3 or 4 vent holes to aid in correcting out-of-tune notes in the harmonic series. The trumpet is a brass instrument commonly used in classical and jazz ensembles. The trumpet group ranges from the piccolo trumpet, with the highest register in the brass family, to the bass trumpet, pitched 1 octave below the standard B-flat or C trumpet. Trumpet-like instruments have historically been used as signaling devices in battle or hunting, with examples dating back to at least 1500 BC. They began to be used as musical instruments only in the late 14th or early 15th century. Trumpets are used in art music styles, for instance in orchestras, concert bands, and jazz ensembles, as well as in popular music. They are played by blowing air through nearly closed lips, called the player's embouchure, producing a buzzing sound that starts a standing wave vibration in the air column inside the instrument. Since the late 15th century, trumpets have primarily been constructed of brass tubing, usually bent twice into a rounded rectangular shape. There are many distinct types of trumpet, with the most common being pitched in B-flat, a transposing instrument having a tubing length of about 1.48 meters. Early trumpets did not provide means to change the length of tubing, whereas modern instruments generally have 3, or sometimes 4, valves in order to change their pitch. Most trumpets have valves of the piston type, while some have the rotary type. The use of rotary valve trumpets is more common in orchestral settings, especially in German and German-style orchestras, although this practice varies by country. A musician who plays the trumpet is called a trumpet player or trumpeter. The English word, trumpet, was first used in the late 14th century. The word came from Old French, trompet, which is a diminutive of trompe. The word, trump, meaning trumpet, was first used in English in 1300. The word comes from Old French trompe, long, tube-like musical wind instrument, cognate with Provençal tromba, Italian tromba, all probably from a Germanic source, compare Old High German trumpa, Old Norse trumba, trumpet, of imitative origin. The trumpet is constructed of brass tubing bent twice into a rounded oblong shape. As with all brass instruments, sound is produced by blowing air through closed lips, producing a buzzing sound into the mouthpiece and starting a standing wave vibration in the air column inside the trumpet. The player can select the pitch from a range of overtones or harmonics by changing the lip aperture and tension, known as the embouchure. The mouthpiece has a circular rim, which provides a comfortable environment for the lips' vibration. Directly behind the rim is the cup, which channels the air into a much smaller opening, the back bore or shank, that tapers out slightly to match the diameter of the trumpet's lead pipe. The dimensions of these parts of the mouthpiece affect the timbre or quality of sound, the ease of playability, and player comfort. Generally, the wider and deeper the cup, the darker the sound and timbre. Modern trumpets have 3 or, infrequently, 4 piston valves, each of which increases the length of tubing when engaged, thereby lowering the pitch. The first valve lowers the instrument's pitch by a whole step, 2 semitones, the second valve by a half step, 1 semitone, and the third valve by 1.5 steps, 3 semitones. Having 3 valves provides 8 possible valve combinations, including none, but only 7 different tubing lengths, because the third valve alone gives essentially the same tubing length as the 1-to-2 combination. In practice, there is often a deliberately designed slight difference between 1-to-2 and 3, and in that case, trumpet players will select the alternative that gives the best tuning for the particular note being played. When a fourth valve is present, as with some piccolo trumpets, it usually lowers the pitch a perfect fourth, 5 semitones. Used singly and in combination, these valves make the instrument fully chromatic, i.e., able to play all 12 pitches of classical music. For more information about the different types of valves, see brass instrument valves. The pitch of the trumpet can be raised or lowered by the use of the tuning slide. Pulling the slide out lowers the pitch, pushing the slide in raises it. To overcome the problems of intonation and reduce the use of the slide, Reynold Schilke designed the tuning bell trumpet. Removing the usual brace between the bell and a valve body allows the use of a sliding bell. The player may then tune the horn with the bell while leaving the slide pushed in, or nearly so, thereby improving intonation and overall response. A trumpet becomes a closed tube when the player presses it to the lips. Therefore, the instrument only naturally produces every other overtone of the harmonic series. The shape of the bell makes the missing overtones audible. Most notes in the series are slightly out of tune, and modern trumpets have slide mechanisms for the first and third valves with which the player can compensate by throwing or retracting one or both slides, using the left thumb and ring finger for the first and third valve slides respectively. Trumpets can be constructed from other materials, including plastic. Anton Weidinger developed in the 1790s the first successful keyed trumpet, capable of playing all the chromatic notes in its range. Joseph Haydn's Trumpet Concerto was written for him in 1796 and startled contemporary audiences by its novelty. A fact shown off by some stepwise melodies played low in the instrument's range.